Many years ago now, I had a chance to travel to Australia. We went with a man who was from there, actually. And up in the northern part of Australia, there's a bunch of lakes and swamps that are a place of really popular fishing. They have big fish, and they take fishermen out on tours. But these swamps and these lakes also have crocodiles in them. And there's a story of one of the fishermen who takes people out for fishing tours. And they got in the boat, and he said, "I think we should pray first." He started to make the sign of the cross. "I think we should pray first." And someone asked him, why do we have to pray? And he said, "We have to pray so that we don't become the prey." So, I don't know how much you know about these sort of things. I mean, I remember, back in the day, you go to a carnival, they had men who would wrestle alligators, but people don't wrestle crocodiles. They don't do that. And if you ever watch any of those nature channels and how they feed, it can be pretty graphic. They grab onto their prey. They don't chew and, sit down. No, they roll and rip. It's, again, pretty graphic. But I would say many of our gospel writers, the first pope who wrote today's epistle, Peter, 1 Peter, his message is just that same graphic. When he talks about Satan, when he talks about the demons and sending the people of God, the newly converted people of God, into the world. In 1 Peter 5, he says, "Be sober-minded, watchful. The devil prowls around like a roaring lion, seeking for someone to devour." Wow. And then he says, "But resist him, solid in your faith." And I would say that has to start with prayer. That must be our foundation. Everything else depends on it. In today's reading, 1 Peter 3, he makes a statement that's easy to miss, but I think is packed with theology, and especially for us in 2026. He tells his readers to always be ready to give an explanation to anyone who asks you of the hope that is in you. Now, a better translation says, always be prepared to make a defense of anyone who asks you what your hope is for. Why are you hopeful or about your faith? To make your testimony. Now, the word there for explanation or defense, the Greek word there is apologia, which doesn't mean apologize, but that's where we get the term apologetics, which means to make a robust defense, a robust explanation for the faith that is in us. And to be an apologist, we must be people of prayer. And if we do not or cannot make a robust explanation or defense of our faith, we're going to become the prey to our secular world, and very much even whatever else is out there will become a prey to that. Now, when we are people of mission, remember that we're not out to convert the demons, just like fishermen are not out to catch crocodiles. They're out there to catch fish, people, and bring them to the truth of our faith. Now, today, in the Acts of the Apostles, we have the story of one of the apostles themselves, Philip. Philip going in to his area of mission. But Philip has been baptized. He has been confirmed. He has been ordained by the Master himself. And he quickly finds out what Peter is talking about when he goes into those murky waters, starts preaching the gospel. People are hearing him, and they start crying out. There are demons out there. And they're being exorcised. In other words, he's stepping in the ring with the evil one. And when you step in the ring with the evil one, you better be prayed up. When you step into the ring of the secular world, you better be prepared. You must be able to give a profound and robust apologia, or you're going to become prey. Now we know oftentimes, we've seen it here at St. Luke, we send our young people off to college, and they come back, and I've seen this firsthand, I come back hating their bodies with nose piercing and blue hair, saying that they're spiritual and not religious. Whatever they're smoking is making them spiritual but not religious. But I think, again, goes back, we have to go back to the Garden of Eden and what happened there. That there was a serpent. Now, when we in medieval art, we see Adam and Eve and the snake kind of going in and out of that apple tree. It just is the tree of the knowledge of good and evil. But what it says there in Hebrew is just serpent. It could have been a snake. I think it was a little lizard that grew into a dragon, maybe even a miniature crocodile. Either way, he was coming for a meal. And he went after the woman first. And instead of being a man, she became prey. Then they became prey because they weren't people of prayer. They forgot to cry out. When the demon came, they didn't say, oh, wait a minute, let's go. We're going to go talk to God first. First mistake. They decided to engage it themselves. Jesus says in the Gospels today to keep his commandments. Now, I think sometimes we kind of water down this thing from John. It says, love one another. Okay, we know that. What does love mean? Love has expectations. Jesus says so. If you love me, you will keep my commandments. Wow, there's something attached to that. There's something attached. And the question for all of us, do we know them? Do we know the commandments? Oftentimes when we have confirmation classes for our kids, I'll take the adults. And we have a whole room of adults and confirmation sponsors. And usually the first class, I'll say, oh, take out a sheet of paper, number it from 1 to 10. What are the 10 commandments? And all of a sudden it's like deer in the headlights. To get like 2 or 3. And can you find them without going to Google? In Exodus 20 and Deuteronomy 5. And he also says, whoever has my commandments and observes them, he makes a promise. This is the one who loves me. And whoever loves me will be loved by my Father. And I will love him and reveal myself to him. Who's the him? The one who keeps my commandments and observes them. What does that mean? It means you're fully equipped. That you're people of prayer, study, and discipline. Because I tell you, crocodiles and demons are disciplined entities. I was watching one of those nature shows, and it shows how a crocodile can sit and wait for days in total patience with just his little eyes above the water, waiting for the wildebeest to come down and take a drink. And then we know what happens. The devil and his minions, they're patient too. They're patient too. They will sit and wait. And when we've committed a sin, they'll say, see, I told you you're bad. That's what they do. They convict. They tell you you're bad. And when you make a mistake, they'll say, oh, see, I told you you're not worthy of God's love. That's what they do. They're liars. They're liars. And it's easy to become their prey. So Jesus gives us himself as food to undo that sentiment, to let us know that he is here to feed us so that we don't become fodder. You know, one of the things I appreciated always about seminary life, before I entered the seminary, I considered myself a pretty good Catholic. I went to Mass on Sundays and even sometimes during the week, 1 or 2 times here and there. But that was the first time we had to get up every morning at some ungodly hour like 6 or 5 or something. We had to be in the chapel praying every day, 365 days a year. And then we would pray, do morning prayer, mass, eat breakfast, and then it would launch us into our day, whether it was study or mission or some kind of outreach, because it was at those study, mission, and outreach that temptations would happen. The rest of the world would be asking us questions. And hopefully we were equipped to give an apologetic, a defense of our faith. And I think now more than ever, I think especially on Mother's Day, because I would argue that the Catholic Church needs, the world needs Mother's Day and the Catholic Church. Because for most of you, when you were challenged about your Catholic faith, they're going to ask you about our mother. That's what they're going to ask you about. And if you can't give a robust and convincing apologetic explanation defense, then you are set to be prey. Again, one of our young people, it's been several years now, went through our youth group. He called me, wanted me to marry him and his fiancée, but he had joined Celebration Church in Georgetown, one of those mega churches with a rock concert and a TED Talk. I said, well, I'm not Catholic anymore, Father. I'm Christian. But I couldn't help but think, well, I remember this young man. He didn't have a strong father in his life. His mother was troubled too. And what happened is also we did not equip him well enough. We obviously didn't give him an explanation of solid defense, and he became prey to that sort of mega church, rock concert, TED Talk, non-denominational waters that you can get lost in. And usually when they go from Catholic to non-denominational, they go to nothing. Or they become Mormon. Because these are the people coming to their door and they got big fishing hooks. They got big fishing hooks. So today, again, we celebrate, and remember, we celebrate 3 things and defend 3 things: motherhood, mission, and marriage. Because those things are all under attack. First thing I would say to all of you, my challenge to all of you sitting in the pews right now, okay? I'm talking to all of you. To go out on your front porch, and if you have one of those no soliciting signs, take it off. If some Jehovah's Witness, some Mormon, some guy selling radars or whatever, that's your chance. That's your chance. come to my house. I have a welcome mat that was made for me. It says, Jehovah's Witnesses, Protestants, and Mormons, please knock. We're supposed to be people of welcome. Then you have a welcome mat there. But also, remember that today, for all you mothers, don't think your motherhood is not always under attack. Some of you have had this experience where you have your first child and your second child, and on your third child, someone says, don't you know how to stop that? Don't you know where babies are from? Why did you do that? You should say to them, how about you're welcome? These children will pay for your Social Security. And one of them will be working at the nursing home that you're at because your kids don't exist. I constantly tell my own nephew, you're going to change my diaper because I changed yours. I can't wait. But I just saw on the news, somebody sent it to me, some irregular couple, 2 men who are legally bound, I guess, holding an adopted baby. And the baby, you've seen it, where the baby goes, Mama. And one of the dads says, no, Mama, Daddy and Papa. And they're mocking the child. No, Mama, Mama. As if to say, you don't need your mama. That's the world we live in. And the world celebrates that. That child is now prey to the alphabet mafia and the rainbow rage. Has become prey to that. And the question is, when asked why we only marry men and women, can you give a robust explanation, apologetic, and defense? And remember that your mission is probably not going to be going door to door, although some of us do that. It most likely might be on a fishing boat where someone asks you, why do you need to pray? Or in a car ride with your son, daughter, niece, or nephew who has left the church. Maybe it's in the office that you work in. Maybe it's the HOA president who shows up at your front door because your pickup truck is parked in the front driveway, and that's against HOA regulations. Remember, those aren't demons, those aren't crocodiles, those are people, those are fish. And once they come into your sphere, are you Catholic for them? Are you Christian for them? Or do you say, no soliciting? Keep your religion to yourself. So we say to everyone, as we remember moms, families, and marriage, that for the next 3 weekends, we will talking about the Holy Spirit. To call upon him, especially those of you who have been confirmed, because confirmation is a sacrament of mission to spread and defend the faith in word and deed. And you have much more opportunity than I do to do that. But it must start with prayer. To be a person of prayer, that means you equip yourself, prepare yourself, bring the Holy Spirit into it. And when you do that, those gifts of the Holy Spirit kick in, the demons and crocodiles will run. They will run. And you won't become prey because you have begun to pray.